Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a really big story in global trade, the new and kind of staggering U.S. tariffs on India. It's a story with some major twists and turns, and it all kicks off with one pretty dramatic number.
Yeah, 50%. That's roughly the new total tax that the U.S. has slapped on a whole bunch of goods coming in from India. It's a huge figure, and it sent absolute shockwaves through the economic relationship between the two countries. But, a number this big, it almost never tells the whole story.
So that's the real question, isn't it? How on earth did we get here? How did we land on this 50% figure? Well, it turns out this isn't one single policy. It's actually two completely different stories that have crashed into each other to become this one very powerful economic move. And in this explainer, we're going to unpack both of them for you. So let's start with the first story, the economic one. This is a tale that's all about trade deficits and this long-running effort to create what the U.S. would call a more level playing field. This part of the story, it's been building up for years. $35 billion. That's the number at the heart of it. That was the American trade deficit with India back in 2023 to 24. So from Washington's point of view, this big imbalance was the original problem, the thing that really kicked off the whole search for a course correction. The first tool they reached for was something called reciprocal tariffs. The idea, which really got a big push during the Trump administration, is actually pretty simple. It's basically, hey, we'll tax your stuff at the same rate you're taxing our stuff. The stated goal is all about fairness and trying to pressure your trading partners to lower their own taxes. And this really gets to the core of the economic fight. The U.S. view is that India's trade policies are just too protective, that they create an unfair advantage. But India's view is, hold on, these policies are vital for us as a developing economy, and you're just unfairly targeting us. This basic disagreement is what set the whole stage for that first round of tariffs. But believe me, that was only chapter one. Because the economic story, well, it's not the whole story, not by a long shot. Just as this whole trade issue was bubbling away, a massive global event happened that completely changed the math and threw a powerful new reason for U.S. action into the mix. The story changed with Russia. India's ongoing trade relationship with Russia, especially its huge purchases of Russian oil and military equipment after the invasion of Ukraine, well, that introduced a whole new geopolitical element to what had been, up to that point, a U.S. trade debate. And this is where a brand new tool comes into play, secondary tariffs. Now, this concept is absolutely crucial. Unlike normal tariffs that are meant to protect your own industries, these are designed to penalize a third country, in this case, India, to try and stop it from trading with the primary target, which is Russia. It's using economic power for a totally separate geopolitical goal. This really lays out the strategy perfectly. The U.S. isn't just trying to hurt the Russian economy directly. It's going after Russia's major customers to squeeze Moscow's income. It's a very clear signal to India saying, hey, your choices about where you buy your energy and your weapons, they have consequences. It's turning trade policy into a really powerful foreign policy lever. So now we have the two pieces of the puzzle, right? The long-simmering economic issue and this brand new geopolitical pressure. So how did they combine to make that 50% number we started with? Well, the escalation happened really, really fast.
I mean, the speed was incredible. In April of 2025, the U.S. brings in that first tariff, the roughly 27% reciprocal one, to deal with the trade deficit. Then, just a few months later in July, bam, an extra 25% tariff gets announced, this time with a clear geopolitical reason. By early August, both are in effect stacked one on top of the other, getting you to that almost 50% rate on specific goods.
But here's what's so interesting. These tariffs aren't just a blunt instrument hitting everything. They are super targeted. You've got major Indian export industries like textiles, jewelry, and auto parts getting hit hard. But then you look at what's exempt, things like pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, energy, even smartphones. It shows you this is a really calculated strategy. Apply pressure where it hurts India, but without blowing up the critical supply chains the U.S. depends on. Okay, so let's just pull back for a second and look at the big picture here. What we've got is a single policy tool, tariffs, that's now being forced to do two completely different jobs at the exact same time. And this Right here is the main takeaway. On one hand, you have the tariffs acting as an economic bargaining chip designed to fix trade numbers. On the other hand, they're a punitive instrument, a geopolitical weapon meant to penalize India for its foreign policy. The key thing is you just can't understand this policy unless you see it's trying to be both of those things at once. Which, of course, leaves us with this final, really tricky question. When a single economic policy is both a tool and a weapon, what comes next? It's a complex, unpredictable situation, and it is going to define the future of the U.S.-India relationship. And that's something we'll all be watching. Thanks for joining The Explainer.